would also say that this being is conscious and aware.
But what's that based on?
Where does your consciousness come from?
How anthropological?
No, but my consciousness has. One second. My consciousness has evolved over, you know.
Hold on 1 second.
Over a period of.
Do you understand what consciousness is?
Well, how are you defining consciousness?
Okay. Consciousness is being aware that you're aware right now, right?
Right. Okay.
And consciousness is an immaterial entity, which science can't obviously prove. But consciousness obviously can't come from the material sum of the universe, right? Because matter doesn't produce consciousness. If you said that consciousness, an immaterial entity, came out of the physical material world, that would be the equivalent of saying something coming from nothing.
No, but you're the one that's trying to make the argument that this infinite entity is conscious. I'm saying it's not necessarily.
No, I'm saying I'm talking about your consciousness right now. I'm talking about the consciousness amongst human beings. Right. Okay. This consciousness can't stem from the material sum of the universe. Why not? Evolution has.
No, but hang on, wait. No, now you're making a separate. Okay. 1 second. Now you're making a completely separate argument. No. We're still talking about the.
That's the point.
1 second. We're still talking about the infinite entity, right?
Yes.
So you're trying to say that the infinite entity suddenly decided, I'm going to make the universe.
Yes, it made a conscious choice, and I'm proving to you that it can make a conscious choice.
Show me how.
Through the reasons that we're conscious ourselves right now. The very fact that we're conscious proves that this being or infinite entity that created the universe must be conscious. How? Because where does your consciousness come from? Consciousness doesn't stem from the material sum of the universe.
It evolves.
I defined it for you a little while ago. You say again? It's being aware that you're aware.
And why can't that come from the immaterial?
Because it's immaterial, and this is philosophers and scientists agree. Because it's like saying something coming from
electrical impulses in the brain, we would be conscious.
All that's going to happen is if you got matter in the beginning of the universe, right? Matter can only formulate into more complex forms of matter as time goes by, right? You're not going to get consciousness spewing out of matter for no reason. It's like saying something coming from nothing. So that doesn't explain consciousness, right? This is the thing. Consciousness.
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think that. I mean,
can you show me that consciousness can come from?
I'll give you an example. So, do you believe that fish are conscious?
I don't know. I'm not fish, right? So I can't think like a fish.
Well, you're not God either, but you're claiming to know that God is conscious.
No. So I think
so you can infer about God, but not about a fish.
Of consciousness.
Fish. What do we know about fish? They're probably conscious to an extent. That's all we know. Unless you're a fish, and you're in disguise.
You don't have to be a fish to know about fish, do you?
Okay. But can you think like a fish?
With the scientific theories.
No. But you're talking about consciousness. Okay. So consciousness, under your definition, is what distinguishes us from the animals.
No, I'm not saying that. Don't put words into my mouth.
Okay, no, but I'm talking
I'm talking about consciousness in general. Whether animals are conscious or not, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
No, but it does. It's very, very important.
You're misconstruing my argument. What I'm saying.
No, I'm not relating to your argument. Okay. I'm making the argument myself.
But we have to address the first point, because I made the claim that this being, this infinite being that caused the universe, made a conscious choice to create the universe at a point. Yeah. Right? Not the same consciousness as human beings.
And then you're saying to me, well, you disprove that. But that's not the way that
what I'm saying is that you have to explain where, and an argument for it is that the fact that we're consciousness existing in the universe, proves that God exists, or is an evidence for it.
I'll tell you where
what other inference can you make? Where did consciousness come from?
I'll tell you, our consciousness comes from the same place that all of our intellectual and mental faculties come from. Where does our ability for language come from? Where does our moral sense come from? Where does our awareness of ourselves come from? It evolves over time.
Consciousness can't evolve, like I
Yes,
showed
they
you.
can.
Why can't it?
Because you can't get. Okay, let me just make this point. Let me make this point.
Was that
so you seem first you
pick and choose when you wish to communicate with me. You're choosing to. No, I didn't. When did I claim that? You're trying to put words into my mouth. Are you losing the argument? Let me choosing to put words into my mouth.
Can I make the point?
Is an amoeba conscious?
Look, it's irrelevant.
You guys are misconstruing.
Why do people misconstrue the point? I'm making the point, Muslim. Unless you're deliberately trying to do this, and that's fine. I'll be quiet and I'll let you carry on. No. Right? Okay. So let me address the point. I'm trying to prove that the infinite entity, God, that I believe is God, the Creator, is conscious to some respect to cause the universe at a point in time. We agreed with all the other points except this one point. Now I'm trying to prove to you that this entity is conscious in one way or the other. As the Quran says, "Laysa kamithlihi shay." He's unlike his creation. He's conscious in his own unique way. But the point is, the fact that we're conscious proves that this entity is conscious in some respect and he exists, right? Yeah. Because our consciousness can't come from the material sum of the universe. Because all that's gonna, if all that exists is matter.
Any more than photosynthesis?
Let me make. Okay.
Can photosynthesis?
Please get this
evolve as consciousness. Why you're choosing to put consciousness on a pedestal? Which is, I think, the gentleman made the point. Are you trying to make out that we're superior to everything else?
Okay, can I make the point now?
Why
am I putting consciousness on a pedestal?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm trying to prove a point to Mohsin. If you've not been attentive, it's not my fault, sir. I'm making the point that.
Would you like to personalise the argument?
Okay, I'm going to address you, Mohsin. Anyway, So the consciousness, I'm saying this being conscious because our consciousness can't come from the material sum of the universe, because all that happens is matter over time formulates into more complex forms of matter, right? And you're not going to get consciousness spewing into existence out of matter. That's the equivalent. Or coming, coming into existence.
I understand your point.
Yes.
You're saying that consciousness is not something that can evolve because it's like an end in itself almost. It can't be decomposed into something simpler.
Because it's a different entity. It's an
immaterial. It can't be decomposed something.
Say the same about photosynthesis.
I'm talking about the origins of consciousness. I'm not talking about the makeup of consciousness. I'm talking about the origins of consciousness.
Okay.
It can't stem from the material sum of the universe.
Because
I've made this point 3 times.
No, you've not. You've not answered that fundamental point.
And
consciousness cannot evolve because.
I think, as I said before, I mean, we're going to have to agree to disagree on this. But consciousness comes from the same area.
But anyway,
wait a second. Consciousness comes from the same area that all our intellectual faculties come from. But, you know, we evolved from a single cell organism that doesn't have a brain. Where does our brain come from?
You're acting like Darwin right now. Right?
Why not? Darwin was a smart dude.
You know what? No, he wasn't.
Why not?
Come
on, he wasn't smart.
Let me tell you what was silly. Let me tell you what was silly. He gave you this whole theory about evolution, but he didn't prove the origins of life in the first place. What's the point? You're constructing this whole story. You're making this whole.
You don't understand the point.
Sir,
so you can't study any section of science without knowing it all.
Did he explain the origins of life? Did he explain the origins of life?
You're just saying you cannot study and understand any section of science without understanding it all, which is a ridiculous point to make.
Did he explain the origins of life?
Ridiculous point to make, saying you can't understand that bit without understanding that bit. It's quite childish, ridiculous, and it doesn't stand up to any intellectual rigor whatsoever.
Morality and so on. I'm not making the argument. The argument I'm making is what is the origins of consciousness. That's the point.
But it doesn't mean you're
but hang on, but I've answered that question. I said all human life evolves from a single cell organism, which has a membrane and some cytoplasm.
And it doesn't stand up to any.
How did it get a brain? It doesn't have a brain. It evolves.
How did it get it?
1 second. It evolves from a single cell to a dual cell to a plant to a fish to a reptile and the intellectual faculties and the morality and the language and everything else and the consciousness. They all evolve in their own.
You're explaining how the brain might have evolved, right?
Exactly.
I agree that might be the case.
But without a brain, hold on 1 second. But you understand that consciousness is related to the brain.
No,
right?
but this is the thing. Have you heard of the hard problem of consciousness?
No.
Because all science can do, it can wire you up, Mohsin. It can show you a picture of a teddy bear, and it can correlate what you're feeling when you look at this teddy bear with brain graphs, waves on a screen. It can't quantify that experience you're going through.
Well, you're not experiencing it in your spleen, are you?
That is your third person conscious experience, right? And that is what I'm talking. Consciousness is immaterial. It's linked. I agree. It's linked to the physical brain. But I'm saying that this entity called consciousness, which is immaterial, has no explanation from materialism. Materialism doesn't explain consciousness.
But the reason why you stick to that argument is because you're defining consciousness in a way that is completely slippery and that no one can understand.
This is how general philosophers.
No. I don't agree with that. I don't think anybody here understands what you mean when you're saying consciousness.
What I'm saying is consciousness. The fact that you're aware that, for example,
the fact that you're aware that you're here.
The teddy bear example.
Certainly, animals have that.
When you see this gentleman here,
every animal,
which we're not sure if he's a fish or a man in disguise.
You're not sure. I think the rest of us are perfectly sure.
Because you claim to think like a fish.
I have not claimed that at any point in time.
But anyway, when you look at this when you look at this guy, okay, when you see him, the experience you're going through deep inside, no one knows of that. That's your third person conscious experience, right? Science can't quantify that experience.